Hi everyone and welcome for this full moon of November 8, 2022. This full moon gives place to a total lunar eclipse. And it is a big one. If you like eclipses, this one is a huge one. Just to have a quick look at the aspects themselves. So on the moon, of course, we have the north node, the north lunar node. This is normal. Anytime we have an eclipse, the lunar nodes are really close by because it tells us about the fact that the sun, moon, and earth are aligned on the same plane. So it's totally normal. And there's also Uranus right next to the moon. Same degree. This is huge. Very rare to have a moon total eclipse, a lunar total eclipse in Taurus, where the moon is supposed to be exalted and full, but then it's empty because it's an eclipse. So there's no light at all on the moon because there's an eclipse at the very moment where it should be a full moon. And right next to it is Uranus. And you know, Uranus is moving, it doesn't have any patience, so there will be great impact on this total lunar eclipse. It's a huge one, way bigger than the usual. If you are sensitive to eclipses, this will be huge for you. So yeah, so this is already what's happening in Taurus. If you look right in opposition to this, of course, we have the sun, of course, the south node. This is normal for a lunar eclipse. But we also have next to the sun, Venus and Mercury. So there's a lot of energy in this alignment of sun and moon. There's Uranus with the moon, Venus and Mercury with the sun. It's huge. And all those points make a square to Saturn in Aquarius. So this aspect, this T-square is just huge. There's tons of energy there. But on top of that, there's another square in that same chart. It's Mars in Gemini, now being retrograde, making a square with both Jupiter and Neptune that are both retrograde as well. So all those three planets are retrogrades, and it's a square. Mars is not comfortable, so the clarity of our actions is not there at all. So really, I'm not a type of astrologer that launches alarms and all this, but be careful. Like seriously, if you ever heard that, you have to be careful on eclipse days, this is one of those. It's huge. The energy that is out there, it's not clear. Mars or actions is not clear at all. It's in square with Jupiter and Neptune, so it doesn't see clearly what to do. And the moon, which is eclipsed, Uranus is right there to churn and move and make things happen that are usually not happening, but in a time of eclipse. So it's huge. Now let's interpret all this. You already understand that it's big, that yes, we have to be aware of what's happening. But if we really go and explain a little bit more what all this is about, well, let's have a look at the moon itself. The moon represents the feminine principle that is forming things. Not shaping, but forming in a sense that it's providing the material to make things real, to make things happen. It's somehow emanating some materials so that things are being formed. A really good example of that, of course, a mother. Same thing. There's at the very beginning, there's a baby, but it's very, very, very tiny. It's just a few cells at the very beginning. And then it's growing. Somehow this feminine principle is bringing in all those materials, and slowly but surely there's a baby that is being formed in the womb of the mother. So this is a very clear example of what I meant by this moon that is forming. It's providing the material and an environment where it can develop, grow, and be healthy. So this is about the feminine principle. If you look at our society, you'll find out that almost everything is driven by a very strong masculine line, masculine philosophy. Think about work. Think about the way you work. Think about competition in work, between businesses, between everybody. Actually, there's a huge competition happening. It's humongous how this masculine way of thinking is just everywhere. Think about school. If you think about school, such a masculine way of learning things. And even the type of things we're learning, very, very, very often, are totally masculine driven. Example. Well, we learn about stuff to calculate, to understand, being able to, write well, explain well things, to perform, right? We learn to perform. But when do we learn at school about our chakras, for example? The inner side of a human being. Look at a man and a woman. A man, well, his sexual organs, reproductive organs, are external. The woman, it's internal. You see the difference? It tells us a lot right there. Everybody know about it. It's like nobody want to talk about it, but it's huge and it's there. And it's showing a little bit to us. It's like one page in the book of nature on the human body that shows us masculine principle, feminine principle. And right there, it tells us that the masculine principle is always about doing things, making things happen, performing, developing things all the time. The feminine principle, it's all about something inside. So the qualities won't be the same. Masculine qualities, courage, determination to make things happen. Feminine qualities, humility, compassion, very feminine. It's totally inner qualities. You see the difference? You feel it, huh? You understand it. It's very important to see the difference in those qualities because in the society right now, masculine is super strong and our entire human system is driven by it. Look at it, how money is driving everything, and money always depends on this competition, terrible energy there. It's not the fact that masculinity is no good, it's excellent. The problem is, since we don't have any perception, we don't give any place to this feminine principle, well then, the feminine principle is not there to give value, to be thankful, to give the appreciation to the masculine principle. So this masculine principle is never really happy and satisfied. So it's always trying to perform more, to outperform the others, to compete and all this. Because it's never really happy. It never receives the appreciation of the feminine principle. Because we don't even give a place for the feminine principle, really, we don't. Think about it. Once in a year, we think about those type of qualities, feminine qualities. The rest of the time, I have to perform, I still have to work, right? It's interesting to talk about it, but I still have things to do because, we got to make a living, right? Well, that way of thinking is so masculine. Just think about our work schedule. Usually, we are an employee, we have about 2 days off per week, very often Saturday and Sunday. Now, not even that, it's not even that clear now. We have to work all the time. So shifts are different and even night shifts and all this, we kind of have to be performing all the time, just like the sun, which is in the middle, performing all the time, giving light and warmth at all time. And it's fine, and it's a great model, and I have nothing against the sun. I love the sun. For me, it's a great representative of a divine energy because it's giving so much. So that's great. And the masculine principle is awesome. There's no problem with that. But think about the feminine principle. Think about how little a place it has right now in our society. If it would have a place, well, how would our work schedule work? Well, in a month or 28, 29 days, or depending, there would be a bunch of days off for that special period in this woman's cycle. It would be like this, not like a week all the time, 2 days off, and this type of rhythm, very masculine. It would be different. It would follow a feminine rhythm, more lunar rhythm. You know that there's a full moon every about 29 days. Well, women have a cycle that is very similar to this. And the work schedule would be just according to this. Now we say, oh, it's not possible. It's not always the same. We have to be organized and all this. So masculine, it's crazy. We don't even give a place to the feminine principle. Not even a place, not even in our entire philosophy. It's so rare that there is a place for the feminine principle. Now, this full moon is talking exactly about that. Because the moon should be full in a sign where it's exalted in Taurus. The moon is exalted in Taurus. It should be a full moon, but then it's empty because it's a total lunar eclipse. And where the moon should be filled with the sunlight, there ain't any. Why? Because the earth is right in between. So the weight of our incarnation, the way we live on earth right now, where there's no room for this feminine principle, well, hides all the light of this feminine principle, of this moon that should be the greatest moon of all the year, is this full moon in Taurus, where it's exalted, it's huge, it's a great strength for the moon, usually. This time it's eclipse and Uranus is right next by, ready to make a big problem so that we all notice this moon, so this feminine principle. And usually what happens? Well, again, we'll be hitting on this feminine principle. That's what usually happens. Look at our planet. We work, we perform a lot, but how much do we destroy the environment? It's crazy. This is feminine. The respect of our environment, the respect of planet Earth, it's huge. But we don't respect that, and now there's climate change. It's being too warm on Earth. And we observe that and we're kind of worried with this. There's huge money going there. So this masculine principle, being always performing more and more and more, it generates heat a lot. And we don't care about the other feminine, more colder, quieter qualities that are just making things healthy, let's say. So you see all this? So what will happen? What will Uranus do? Well, a very simple thing could be some kind of natural catastrophe. We'll be hitting again on this feminine aspect just so we really notice it. But it should be huge so that we notice and then we don't forget. That's the point. Right now, it happens. We have sometimes some natural catastrophe, a hurricane, earthquake, or whatever. This happens, but usually we forget about it not very long after this. So I don't know. Will it be a nuclear thing? Would it be a war thing? Would it be a natural disaster? Or nothing of this and just some things that people live inside, within? That they just live something terrible in their maybe relationship environment? Or I don't know exactly where. I'm no clairvoyant, so I cannot tell for sure what exactly will happen. This I cannot tell for sure. But there are energies there that want to make sure to underline really clearly that the feminine principle has to have a place on Earth. And now we say, oh, now women have a place, in some countries they say, like, oh yeah, now, women can vote and all this stuff. And now they can work, pretty much they can work at every level. They can, I don't know, do sports, golf, that thing and all that. Anyway, some people mention that kind of reasoning saying, oh, there's a place now for the feminine principle. Not at all. Now we are actually bringing the women and we immerse them in those masculine way of thinking and acting and all this, and we say it's fine that it's like this. It's kind of odd. I understand, and it's kind of a good step. In the meantime, watch out. In our philosophy, there's no room for the feminine qualities, virtues, for the feminine principle. It's not really there. So this is something to think about, to ponder on. And the best thing we can do really is to think about it, meditate on this topic, and do our best to give a place to this feminine principle. It's the best thing we can do. And if we want to make sure that this is really happening, well, there are ways to do this. Think about, if I would be in those feminine qualities connected within myself, those energies moving in myself and all this, would I allow this, I don't know, this violence, this pollution, this whatever else to happen? Would I do that? Usually no. Usually this feminine principle doesn't like that. It likes peace. It likes a good environment so that life can be formed. Think about it. And this is very important. Let's allow this Uranus to work within ourselves instead of having to trouble the whole Earth. Well, if it has to happen, it will. But let's not, it's not a time to send an alert that, oh, big drama will happen. It's not the idea. But yet, it's that kind of aspect. It is. It really is. So I'm not saying it's the end of the world on November 8th, not at all. I'm just saying if you think about that type of topic, it's exactly that. And why would that happen? Of course, to give a place to the feminine principle in our human society, which is now pretty much shaping planet Earth, honestly. It's doing a lot now. As humanity, we have a really big role on our planet. Let's think about this feminine side of things. Let's give it a place. Let's change a little bit our point of views. Let's stop seeing that we won't compete as much if we use feminine qualities instead of masculine ones. We have to see it differently, with different eyes. See? We have to see, life quality will be so much better for our entire Earth, for all living creatures on Earth, even the invisible ones. That is feminine. Why the invisible ones? Because since women and feminine energy principle is based on what is happening within, you know that what's happening within the human being, we don't see. We feel, but we don't see it. So it's also about the invisible side of things. So things to think about in this unusual, strong, and it's a big eclipse. Unusual, strong full moon and total lunar eclipse that can move many, many things. We have to be aware of what is happening. It's a strong one. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening, and see you next time for another astrology video.